Good morning, Chairman. Chairman?
Thank you. I apologise for that. I was still speaking and unmuted, so I think I'll start again. So, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this online meeting of the Corporate Parenting Panel. My name is Councillor David Brailsford, and I am the chairman of this panel. This is a formal public meeting, and the audio feed of this meeting is being broadcast live via the County Council's website. I would like to welcome the members of the press and public who are listening to this online. Before we begin, I would like to confirm who is present. Rachel Wilson, Democratic Services Officer, will ask members to indicate their presence after their name is called. When invited to speak, you should unmute your microphone and switch on your video. When you are not participating in the meeting, please make sure that you have muted your microphone and switched off your video. I'm now going to hand over to Rachel so that we can invite members to indicate their attendance. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairman. When I call your name, just please can you confirm that you're present? Councillor David Brailsford.
Present.
Councillor Rob Folkes.
Present.
Councillor Andrew Hayes.
Present.
Councillor Mrs Julie Kelly.
Present.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Ballou.
Present.
Councillor Mark Whittington.
Present.
And we have the following added members: Polly Coombs.
Present.
Anne Wright.
Present.
And Elizabeth Bunny.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Before I go on, has any member not had their name called out who is attending today? I don't think that is the case, but no. Okay, so we'll carry on. Thank you. I would like to ask members of the panel and other participants to type speak in the chat when you wish to ask a question or make a contribution. I know that we've not as yet come to apologies, but I am aware that my vice chairman is not here today. So perhaps one of the Democratic officers will make a note of that and assist me when someone wishes to speak, please. And just a reminder to turn off your microphone when not participating in the meeting. And can I also ask members who are intending to leave the meeting to indicate on using their chat function. Officers do not need to do so, and we'll now move on to the formal agenda. So we'll start off, obviously, first item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Rachel?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Perrotton-Williams.
Thank you. And would I be correct in assuming there are no replacement members today?
That's correct.
Okay. Right. Item 2, declaration of members' interests. Do any members have any interest to declare? If so, please type speak in the meeting chat now.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think that's Mark. Yes, okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I better still declare my standing declaration of interest. My adopted son is now 24. I'm not sure if he's still receiving services from Bernardo's or not, or what's happening there. I've not had a chance to talk to him about it, so I'll declare it just as a matter of course, just in case he still is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark, for that. Yes, I think it's better to be safe than sorry, so we welcome that, and thank you very much for that. So quickly moving on, item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of January. This item is to confirm the minutes of our previous meeting held on the 14th of January as a correct record. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
I'll propose them, David. That's Councillor Folkes.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to second them, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, Mark. Now, before we vote on the minutes, I see reading through them, there was a note regarding, I think Councillor Fuchs was going to contact one of the local papers south of the county in Stamford. And I just like, for the record, I understand that didn't actually produce a positive outcome. For the record, seeing as it is our last meeting, Rob, for the next meeting, when I think there's a possibility that neither of us will be here, so that members are aware who are at that meeting what the situation is. So could you just give us an update, Rob, please, on that?
Yeah, I wrote to Nick Rudd-Jones, who is the sort of like group editor of the local living magazines, which cover such things as Stamford Living, Norfolk Living, that kind of thing. It's one of these lifestyle type magazines with a very wide readership. It's the sort of magazine that ends up in doctors' surgeries, you know, so they're not just thrown away. So I was hoping that he could have put a little article in there about the fostering. So I wrote to him, but unfortunately wrote back saying that the business situation at the moment wasn't conducive to such an article, so that was it. But maybe once this pandemic is finished, the next bunch of councillors for down here, they could take it up again and see if they can prod him into putting something in, because it would be a useful magazine to publish in.
Thanks for that, Rob. Yes, the reason I asked you to say that or comment on that was particularly for the reason that you mentioned at the end. For the next councillors, that would be something that they could take forward. So, okay, so I've got a proposer and a seconder for that. We'll now vote on the minutes, and we're voting on whether you agree that the minutes are a correct record. Rachel will call the name of each member present in alphabetical order, and you're asked to state for, against, or abstain. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Brailsford.
For.
Councillor Fakes.
For.
Councillor Hakes.
For.
Councillor Julie Killy.
For.
Councillor Trollope-Bellew.
For.
Councillor Mark Whittington.
For.
That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Those minutes are agreed. On to items 4, announcements by the Chairman, Executive Councillor and Lead Officers. Before I ask anyone else to come in, I'm just going to, for the minutes, just say that today's meeting will be the last for our colleagues in Children's Services. For John Harris, will shortly be retiring from the council after working here for the last 35 years. My goodness. Deborah Crawford, Fostering Team Manager, has been appointed to replace John as the Head of Regulated Services for Fostering. And in addition to that, Yvonne Sherwood, who I'm sure many of you or all of you will know, will also be shortly leaving her role as Head of Regulated Services for Adoption. Yvonne has been offered an Assistant Director position at North East Lincolnshire Council. On behalf of the panel, I would like to thank John and Yvonne for all their hard work and support to the panel, and wish them both all the very best for the future. They both will be very sadly missed, actually, but we wish them the best. Thank you. Are there any announcements from any officers, please?
Thank you, Councillor Brailsford. I'd just like to echo what you have just said with regards to Yvonne and John. They have certainly been a great source of support for children in care and have worked tirelessly to improve the outcomes and life chances for our young people. So yes, they will be greatly missed. Obviously, Yvonne's going on to a whole new exciting opportunity, as is John, who is going to become a carer for his grandson. So that's lovely as well. So thank you. And the only other announcement I'll probably just put you on notice is that we had our annual conversation last week with Ofsted. So it was a good conversation, and we will be preparing for them to arrive sometime after May.
Thank you for that, Janice. Always good to talk to Ofsted, so well done for that. And yes, we are losing 2 champions, aren't we, in John and Yvonne? But
Absolutely.
we wish them the best anyway. Okay. Right, moving on. Right, item 5, Voices for Choices update report. This item provides the panel with a summary and overview of activities and meetings undertaken between October 2020 and January 2021 in relation to the V4C. This report will be presented by Ben Lilly. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Yeah, and before I hand over, Ben, I'm just going to say, if you would like to comment on this item, please type speak into the chat function and we'll take questions at the end. So, yeah, good morning once again, Ben, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do I need to share the report on the screen, or has everybody got sort of access to read it as I talk?
It probably is well to share it if that's going to be. Is that something that we can do without too much inconvenience, Ben?
I'll share it now if I can.
Yeah, okay.
No, apologies. It's not letting me share it for some reason. Okay. Oh, it's here. No, 1 second. It's coming now. Yeah.
I was going to say, while you're doing that, Ben, down in the south of the county, the sun's come out, so I need to put my dark glasses on.
It has here, actually. Hopefully people can see that now. It's just coming through, hopefully. Yep. I'll make a start. Hopefully everybody can see that. So this report, as the chairman said, summarises activities with regard to October 2020 through to January 2021 about what's been happening with our V4C meetings and also our additional Sound Links V4C music sessions for the children and young people. So in terms of background, the section here gives us the summary. So lockdown restrictions. What we've had in Lincoln and West Lindsey.
David, I put a question on the chat there for Ben for when we could come to the question. David, I've got the live link up on my phone on the YouTube channel, and there's one person watching.
Sorry, Councillor folks, we're just about to go live.
Okay.
Sorry, apologies.
Good morning, Chairman. We're live again.
Good morning, and thank you for that. Before we continue with the meeting,
There's one person watching.
Sorry, Councillor folks, we're just about to go live.
thank you, Tracy, for that. I'll just repeat that. Apologies, we had a technical issue on item 5 on the agenda, no doubt due to the severe weather that we're experiencing at the moment. I'm now informed that we've rectified that. We are back live again. But if in case anyone missed it, I think it'd be very wise that if Ben Lilly can start item 5 from the beginning again. So it's over to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so this is the latest quarterly update reports regarding the Voices for Choices activity through from October to January of this year. And Voices for Choice is our Lincolnshire Children in Care Council, which, for those not aware, is about sharing experiences of children who are being looked after in Lincolnshire and helping making things better for them. So the background to the report, I've summarised today our V4C activities over October to January via the 4 localities in Lincolnshire. And during this time, our V4C engagement activities have mostly remained via Zoom virtually due to COVID restrictions. So in our first locality of Lincoln and West Lindsey, I'm showing you on the screen there the dates and the sessions. We did manage to get in a physical meeting activity that was delivered at Wild Pines Park in Market Raisin, and that was in October between different COVID restrictions. You can see from the attendances there that attendances did struggle in December and into January, but it's pleasing to be able to report that since this report, the attendances have got back to a more normal figure, and we've had one of the V4C team delivering work within North Home Children's residential home in Gainsborough. Feedback from the children has very much been the case in this particular home and location. They would like to return to physical activity-based meetings in the future ASAP, really. Moving down, Boston and South Holland, again, you can see a summary of dates and attendances there. This is a very established group now with good levels of engagement and activity, and they are having more frequent than the usual monthly sessions. And I've put quite a bit of text into the report here. I'm not going to read through it all, but the group were very keen for the panel to have detail about what they've been doing within their meetings here. And there's some really good examples here of youth engagement. So I've put quite a bit of detail in here, but some really good information for the panel around some activities the group did regarding Remembrance Day, Christmas, and also in early February, there was some work with the Lincolnshire Youth Commission, which is another engagement group relating to the Lincolnshire Police Service. So some really good positive examples of work going on within that particular group. North Kesteven and South Kesteven, the groups have continued to meet on an individual basis. I'd like to update the panel since this report. I've attended and delivered a session at the Eastgate Children's Residential Home in Sleaford in February. I wanted to speak to the children and young people and the staff there about how we can encourage the young people to attend V4C in the future. It's very pleasing to report that both the residential care staff and the children were aware of V4C, and had long conversations and discussion with them about what they would like from it in the future, with a real desire from the young people to attend physical meetings and activities similar to what we were offering before the COVID restrictions. And in addition, they've got aspirations to attend meetings outside of the South Kesteven and North Kesteven area. So, for example, they've heard of Boston Bowl that the other group have attended, and they would like to attend that session as well. So there's some work for us there to do about enabling some of the children and young people to work beyond the boundaries of their group. I've also attended Albion Street Children's Home in Spalding in February, and I've again delivered a session and spoke to the children and young people there, and the feedback's very similar again. They're very interested in attending any activities outside of their local area which are new. So they were talking about going up to Ancaster nearer to Sleaford to do some of the activities and have a VFC meeting there, for example. So again, very pleasing to hear that the children and the staff were aware of VFC and that the residential care staff were talking to the young people about it. East Lindsey, again, the report here is that it's been difficult to get young people to attend, and I do know that the staff are trying really hard to try and establish a plan for physical meetings going forward. Alongside the traditional V4C meetings, we've also continued with the V4C Virtual Sound Links programme. This has been going on for several months now, has been popular, and we've extended the sessions through to the end of March. And there's been sessions around rhymes and beats and electronic music and ukulele playing, and that's been going forward now. And you can see some of the attendances there. There are limits on the number that we can have in some of the groups due to the nature of the activity, but it's a really good offer, and the feedback from children and people still remains really positive. We are looking at action planning to move back to face-to-face meetings when we're allowed to and able to, and when various other external organisations and leisure facilities open. And we're looking at potential activities, venues, and also we've been planning and looking at where the home addresses are of some of the children and young people to help plan possible venues and locations in the future to make it easy for people to get to in terms of how far away they are from homes. So there's a number of activities there, and obviously the aim is to re-establish our pattern of future face-to-face V4C meetings similar to what we had prior to the lockdown. So in conclusion, I think the delivery of V4C meetings has taken place virtually via Zoom now for some time, and we've got examples of really, really good practice and also some struggles. It's really good that after visiting the homes myself, I've got a clear idea, and hearing it directly from the children and staff about what they would like going forward, and that will be central to the planning. And I think I've talked about sound links, that's being extended, and again, in the future, there is an appetite for virtual meetings to remain as well. So, as per the last meeting, our future will be face-to-face and a hybrid approach that will still have virtual meetings if that is still required. So, thank you. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Ben. Yes, and before I just invite I think I've got Councillor Fuchs and Councillor Kelly for two who want to ask questions. Delighted, I have to say, Ben, delighted that we're going into children's homes now, and we're taking on their concerns. Yes, and great to go up to Ancaster again. I'm sure that will be very popular when you can get the young people going there. And I think that very difficult times at the moment, but we are making progress. So well done to the team, all of the team, Ben. And I'm now going to, I think it was Councillor Fuchs first who's got a question for you. So Rob, over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ben. And they're not really questions. The first one is, it's great that Sound Links is continuing, and long may that continue. Just a question on when you were saying that meetings beyond boundaries, there was a concern about the suitability of some of the venues. because in the past, the one at Horncastle, for instance, wasn't particularly conductive, and similarly in Boston. So can you assure the panel that that you're going to be picking suitable venues that are with good acoustics for one thing, so the children can actually hear what's going on, and that they're nice places for them to go, so they feel like it's worth making the effort?
Yeah, I can give that assurance. We've done quite a lot of work of scoping out across the county all the different locations and venues of potential places where we can meet. And I think when the young people have talked about crossing sort of borders and maybe going beyond their locality, it's really to access the V4C meetings where we've been delivering an activity in external areas, such as Boston Bowl or the North Sea Observatory Chocolate Workshop. I think some of the issues in venues has been when we've had the big conversation, which is a wider meeting, and we've used apparently in the past more historical venues such as Horncastle Youth Centre rather than an external company or organisation that delivers an activity. But we have listened to the feedback about venues, and rest assured we'll be looking at it very carefully to make sure we're not using anything that hasn't got good acoustics, for sure.
Right, it's great. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Ben. Councillor Kelly, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Ben. Yeah, I think this is a really excellent idea, as Councillor Fuchs has just said, to go into children's homes. And I think what is it Boston and South Holland group are doing, I think is really fantastic. When you say that they met regularly, does anybody know what that means? Is that every month, every fortnight? I mean,
Yeah. Okay. So the reports have the dates of the meetings are in the report, and traditionally the V4C meetings take place on a monthly basis.
Right.
With regard to Boston and South Holland, because the group have requested it, the meetings have been more than once a month. So often weekly or fortnightly. If I just scroll up the report.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that. I mean, the reason why I was asking that, Ben, was because obviously I think, especially under these, really unusual circumstances, I know a lot of my friends have done activities by Zoom. So I've got friends doing yoga by Zoom, friends doing choir practice, blah, blah, blah. And I think actually the more regularly you do something, the better, it becomes, because it has some sort of, internal dynamic. But yes. I think one of the reasons for that, the success of Boston and South Holland, is I think it's really clever that they've actually done activities related to the season. So they've, done pumpkins for Halloween, they've done something for Remembrance Day, they've done something for Christmas, and obviously that does require a great deal of planning. And obviously it will be much more fun when you can meet face to face again to make pumpkins in a group rather than do it remotely. So my it's not really a question, it's an observation. I just wondered if this good practice could be shared with some of the other groups. And children are particularly interested in music, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think some things like online quizzes would be good. But I think some of the more practical activities like making pumpkins or whatever would be better face to face. But I just wondered if Boston and South Holland would mind sharing what they're doing to try and get more children involvement. And I don't know whether that's possible. Or whether it's been done already. Yeah,
they tried. We have shared it with the other areas, and they are trying. I agree with you on 2 points. The frequency, I think, does help. So once you get a group through the virtual door, so to speak, if you meet with them more frequently, I think you have a better option of maintaining that group. And secondly, just like a face-to-face meeting, you've got to make the meetings interesting. And so doing things by the season, doing things that are topical are going to help with that, because you provide a purpose and a context to the meeting. And what I've seen with V4C is that it shows that virtual delivery can be very successful. What we've got here is example of really good practice, but we've also got examples where it's being more difficult. But you're right, the Boston and South Holland one is kind of like our gold standard, I guess, currently, and that has been shared.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly, for those comments, and thank you, Ben, for that. Yes, I think the challenge now is to get the other areas, particularly East Lindsey, increasing the numbers. It's rather, I won't say disappointing, because I think it's a positive report, but all the facilities that we have down the East Coast, you mentioned the observatory centre and the other activities down there. It's slightly disappointing that we can't get the numbers up, but hopefully after lockdown ends we can make progress there. And again, as Councillor Kelly says, it's all about getting the momentum. Ben, I've just got one final question for you. You mentioned, and I'm delighted that we're now going into children's homes, and that's very positive for the young people. I would always felt that would be the case. When they attend V4Cs at various locations, is there going to be a problem transporting these young people to the sites, locations? Have we actually covered that? Is that all taken care of?
It's not all taken care of. I've been having discussions about that. It depends on the distance, the residential care officers, and how we can do it. But we think it can be okay. It just depends really on. We need to look at it on an individual level in terms of where the activity is and where the individual children are. But we don't really want to put any barriers up there. So we do think it can be done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Ben, and thank you for the report. Now, I've just got an issue with my IT, but bear with me and I'll sort it out in a minute and we can progress. So, okay. So are there any more councillors wishing to ask any questions, please, before we move on?
Chairman, we have Councillor Hayes.
Thank you for that. Right, Councillor Hayes, over to you.
Thank you, David. Ben, I've got 3 questions for you. One, you answered towards the end about Zoom meetings. Will they continue after some of the restrictions start to come down? The second question I got was on page 11, the attendances in December and January were quite low. And I wondered if they were traditionally low at that time of the year. And if they weren't, was there any particular reason why this year or this last December that they'd be particularly low?
Okay. The first question regarding Zoom and continuing it. Of course, we will speak to children and young people, but our plan is, based on feedback, is that a number of the young people would like to have the option of V4C meetings and input onto V4C via Zoom going forward into the longer term. So we would keep that option alongside face-to-face meetings. We've got no issue with that. Does that answer your question, Councillor, on that score?
It does to some extent. I just wonder whether the venues for some of these meetings aren't very exciting for the children. And it seems to me that we've got lots, as the chairman says, we've got lots of venues on the East Coast which we could use. But we've also got Lincoln Castle, which I would have thought would have appealed to all of the age groups, that they could, there'd be something exciting for them to turn up to and something different for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So prior to lockdown, we had moved V4C from being delivered in traditional into from youth centres into various sort of fun-based activities. And in Lincoln, they were going to things like Tenpin Bowling, the escape rooms, going out for a meal. So they were doing that more sort of fun activity-based activity, and attendances at that point were sort of 10, 11, 12 young people attending. So that's what we want to get back to. So something like Lincoln Castle would be one of the options in the future to hold a meeting and an activity at. But it was certainly things like the bowling and the escape rooms were very popular, and they were held sort of before Christmas of last year, the year before lockdown. And that's what we want to get back to. In terms of the attendances in December and January in West Lindsey and Lincoln, the attendances in previous years at that time have been good. And the youth worker reported that she was struggling to just get young people to attend. It was probably quite a chaotic time with school and things going on and changes at that point a few months ago. And that's settled down now. And she's been into the residential home in Gainsborough, and the numbers are picking up again. So I'm confident that in Lincoln and West Lindsey, the numbers will return to what they have always traditionally been. So yeah, that's the feedback I've had, Councillor.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. I've got one final question. On page 13, you've got the Halloween-themed event. What can you tell me what on earth pony bread pumpkins are?
Unfortunately, I'm not sure. Pony bead pumpkins. I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm afraid.
I don't need a slice, whatever it is.
Something to do with Halloween and pumpkins.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Yeah, just to reassure all councillors, I do recall that Ben and I had a meeting back in 2019, August, September time, when we both agreed that we needed to make some of these venues more exciting for the young people. And I'm pleased to say that prior to lockdown, Ben, you and the team have been very successful in getting the numbers up to, quite a considerable higher than what they were. So I'm hopeful that we can sort of return to that. And as Councillor Haigh says, it's not just down the East Coast. There's plenty of exciting venues all around. I know at one stage we were looking to visit fire stations and things like that. So I know there's sort of health and safety issues, in particular in fire stations, but I think we need to keep listening to the children, young people, and which we are doing. And I'm actually personally quite pleased with the progress that's been made by the team, Ben. So thank you very much for that. Now, the panel, we've been invited to provide comment and steer, which I believe that we've done on activities and meetings and future planning. I propose now that the panel receives the report. We've reviewed the activity and meetings undertaken. Before we move on, are there any other speakers, please, Tracy?
No further speakers, Chairman.
Okay, right, thank you very much for that. So I'm going to propose that we receive the report. We've reviewed the activity and meetings undertaken. And does anyone dissent that we receive this report, please? If so, please indicate in the chat function. I will just pause before we move on.
None indicated, Chairman.
Thank you. So there'll be no need for a formal vote. So thank you. That is agreed. And I don't know if you're leaving the meeting, Ben, but you're virtually welcome to stay. But if not, congratulations for the work that you've done and for the team, and carry on the good work into the future. And I shall be keeping a close eye, but from a distance. So thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you, Councillor. I will leave the meeting because I've got another appointment. I just wanted to say thanks for your interest and your steer and challenge, and it's I wish you well. It's been good working with you, Councillor.
Thank you, Ben, for that, and we'll now move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Move on to item 6, which is the Children in Care Performance Measures Quarter 3, 2020 to 2021, which is October to December. This item provides the panel with an opportunity to consider key performance information on Quarter 3, which is relevant to the work of the Corporate Parenting Panel. This report will be presented by Janice Spencer, Assistant Director of Children's Safeguarding. And again, if you would like to comment on this item, please type speak into the chat function and we'll take questions at the end of the report. So good morning again, Janice, and it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brailsford. As you rightly point out, this is our performance report for Quarter 3, and we are reporting on the exceptions here. There are 7 of them out of 14 targets. So the first one is the fostering and adoption of looked after children aged 10 to 16. This is under performing at this point in time, but at 76.8%, it's still quite strong performance. What we have seen as a result of the pandemic is that placement options have been reduced. Our foster carers have not been able to take as placements as they would have done outside of the pandemic in terms of protecting themselves and the children within their households. We've also seen a number of young people move into residential provision, which is something that we are looking at for next year, and we have some plans around how we will be returning those young people back into family arrangements once the lockdown lifts further. The stability of placements of looked after children, the number of moves, that performance is really, really strong at the moment. It's at 2%, which is really good. And again, that is probably an unintended benefit of the pandemic, whereas foster carers have really, really gone the distance and the extra mile, and they've kept the children that may have been quite challenging on occasion, but they've absolutely worked through some of those challenges and they've been supported to do that. So that's really good. The stability of placements of looked after children and the length of placement, again, that's improved during this quarter, but does remain just below target. We see the performance at 70.9, which again is still strong, and we continue to ensure that foster carers are well supported and that potential problems are identified early. And the Caring to Learn project has been very, very successful, and actually throughout the pandemic, the community has grown. Carers have found great strength, support for each other in that project, which we are looking at rolling out further. There's a paper coming to DLT on that in the future. The percentage of children looked after with up-to-date routine immunisations, that has dropped. That's 76.5%, but obviously that's very much linked to the pandemic and the National Health Service not being in the position to deliver the routine immunisations that they would do normally. And similarly, our up-to-date dental checks for young people has reduced. Again, as we all know, dental practices were closed, but what I would say is that where any child required emergency treatment, that has been sourced and they have received that as needed. We're very mindful now as we move out of the lockdown that there will be pressures put on practices, but there has been communication from National Health England that practices will prioritise vulnerable children and children in care. So that's very, very positive. Our care leavers and education, employment and training, unfortunately, has dipped, as would be expected. This is a challenging area for our young people at the best of times, but even more so during the pandemic. What we have agreed is that we will increase the establishment in Barnardo's with 2 additional employment education training officers so that they can provide additional capacity to ensure that we are giving every possible opportunity and availability to our young people to source employment education and training. So that's a really good thing. And our children in care living within a family environment, that's a really high performing target again, that's 78.6. And of those children living in a family arrangement, 39 of them were living with their parents, and they were either subject to an order as part of care proceedings or reunified at home. And what we are looking at, and we constantly look at, is for those young people, can we actually discharge their care order and that they can then return to the care of their parents fully and formally. That's all of the performance reports. If there are any questions, I'm happy hopefully to assist.
Happy as always, Janice, and thank you for the report. Do we have any councillors wishing to ask any questions? I do, Janice, but I'll give the members of the panel first go on that. So if anyone wants to ask any questions.
Currently, we have none indicated, Chairman.
Oh, right. Okay, Janice, I've got one for you. Care leavers in education, employment or training. It's not a comment about the page 39 in the agenda specifically, but I just wondered if we could actually add something for future meetings on this. The point I'm trying to make is I attended a learning board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I know that when we, as a county council, we use contractors, and I'll use, for instance, Balfour Beatty, who are highway contractors. In the agreement that we signed with them, they did agree to take on apprentices, work experience, trainees, and such like. And I just wonder if it would be beneficial for the corporate parenting panel to actually have details of these contracts, of how many people were actually being trained, because I think it's an ideal opportunity, particularly in highways in particular. I'm picking on highways, but there are many others as well, where that we could take care leavers and give them some valuable training. And it was a question I asked at the meeting, and I think if we could connect it into the corporate parenting so that members of the panel could actually see what was actually achieving. I know it's something that does happen, and I am assured that it is happening, but we don't seem to report on it. Do you think that could be added, Janice, please?
Absolutely, yes, Councillor Brailsford. Yeah. We'll make that a standing item going forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Janice. That was the main question I wanted to ask. Now I see that Councillor Kelly would like to speak, so Councillor Kelly, over to you.
Is the Councillor Whittington before me?
Well, it may be, but
does it matter? Oh, okay.
Sorry, it may well be, but since I've asked you, apologies to Mark. If you want to go, Julie, yes.
Okay, right. Sorry. I don't know whether I'm misunderstanding this, so I just really wanted some clarification, Janice.
Yeah.
When you said obviously it has been very, very difficult in relation to this whole area because of the pandemic and foster parents, shielding, etc., which we heard about in the Children's Scrutiny meeting last week. When I read the report a couple of days ago, and it said that some children were returned. Now, this is where I'm confused. The care orders could possibly be removed, and they were returned to their birth families. Yes. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes.
Right. So that means, to a certain extent, that because of the situation, this has led to more flexibility, has it, in relation to children going back to their birth families, depending on what their care order was about?
Yeah, it's something that happens all the time, Councillor Kelly. So we risk assess all the family arrangements. We have a statutory duty to undertake that. And, you know, just for example, over the last couple of years, there's been 50 children returned home that we've actually successfully discharged their care orders. So it is work that we do all the time. So we haven't stopped during the pandemic. There's probably been less gone home because of the pandemic, because the networks around the family wouldn't be there that we'd want to be there. But no, it is work that we always do. We always look, is it safe for children to return to live with their family? And if it is, then they go home on their care order. And then if that's successful, after a period of time, we will go back to court and ask for the court to discharge the order so that their parents take full parental responsibility for them again. So that's really positive for the young people.
And obviously that's been affected by the pandemic because the family network won't be available.
So
when you're making this,
sorry.
When you're making a decision, because this is only I'm fairly new to this committee, panel rather. When you're making this decision, do you actually go and ask the relatives or whoever?
Yes.
How you think the child has settled back down into the family? Is that part of the process of? Yes. Okay.
Yes. So we look at the network and we work out what the support package is, and then we constantly review the support package. But some of the children, what we haven't been able to do this year is discharge their care orders, because obviously the capacity of the courts have been limited due to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So those children we've considered, they're safe and they are with their parents, and ideally we would like to discharge their order, but that hasn't been a priority this year, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Next year, going forward, hopefully, as the restrictions lift, the court capacity will increase and we'll be able to do that piece of work again.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Now, did I miss Mark out of a question, please?
Yes, we have Councillor Mark Whittington who wishes to speak, and that's it at the moment, Chairman.
Yeah. Apologies, Mark. I did miss you on that. So, so over to you now.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's not a problem. I was trying to write in the box to speak, but for some reason my authenticator device came up and I had to get a blooming code sent down to me, so I was a bit delayed. And thanks Janice for the report. And I mean, I'm guessing, because obviously I think any performance report or set of performance reports that we're looking at the moment in the sort of COVID world, you do have to sort of say, well, they're all going to be affected. Everything's going to be affected by COVID and by the pandemic. And I think it makes comparisons difficult because the fundamental underlying circumstances are different. But I'm just interested in a couple of things. The first one really is I guess kind of following on for the conversation you've just had with Councillor Kelly around fostering, and the impression that I got is that because of the COVID restrictions, there's been a lot less moves for children, and you said that foster parents have kind of been able to work through things, and I'm actually thinking to myself that. Have these sort of ways been sort of documented? Because I'm kind of thinking that in a crisis, we've kind of been able maybe to find new ways of working to sort of perhaps in future when we do move out of restrictions, that some of the lessons we've learned there, it may be that with a bit more support of foster parents, sort of based on the knowledge we've gleaned during COVID, might actually helped to reduce those number of placement moves going forward, because we learn in a crisis. Been my first question. And my second one is with the rest of the stats, and obviously oh god, am I still here?
We can still hear you, Councillor Whittingham.
This computer has decided to play. It's decided to do all kinds of weird and wonderful things to me this morning. Sorry, I'm back again. And my second question is, on some of the other stats, where obviously we've got the around the NEETs and around the dental and those sort of stuff, which are COVID related. How long do you think it potentially is going to be until that date when that performance starts to settle down again post-COVID? Because obviously, going forward next year, when we look at the performance stats next year, and we're moving out of lockdown, we'll be comparing stats that were compiled during lockdown. So it's how long do we think before maybe things settle down, but also on the proviso that we may not quite return to where we were before. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittingham. You're absolutely right. During the pandemic, we have found new ways of working. I don't know whether John might want to come in and comment on some of them, but we are currently looking at what we call a blended approach. Some foster carers have really, like children, have really valued and welcomed the Zoom meetings that they've been able to have with their supervisors and social workers. And they've been able to have them more regularly than you would perhaps at a face-to-face contact. So there is something that we are looking from there. As I say, I think caring to learn, that's grown throughout the pandemic, and the source of support that they found with each other has been tremendous. And I think that's been a great support. And that, as I said earlier, is something that we'd want to continue. With regards to recovery, you're absolutely right. I don't quite fully have in my time frame yet when I think we will pull out of this. but we will be, as soon as we have access to the dental surgeries. Obviously, as I said earlier, the NHS have prioritised children in care, so we will be making every effort to get those children and young people seen, and equally with their immunisations. Again, we'll be doing that. I think the most difficult area is the education, employment and training, and I think we've recognised that as a local authority. We've had support from elected members, from the corporate team, to put additional support into Barnardo's for the next 12 months. And we are currently looking at what do the key performance indicators look like in this new world. So we are just currently working through that. So there will be a different slant or a different lens of how we look at education, employment and training going forward in the future. Does that assist and answer your questions?
I think it does actually, Janice, because it's, you know, I am encouraged because I do think that's, you know, sometimes out of a crisis you do discover new ways of working. The post-crisis you tend to learn, and it's in a crisis situation, I think, when you really realise actually where your strengths lie, because you really have to rely on them. And obviously going forward, yeah, I think the education and training thing is going to be quite key, because obviously in the report you allude to the fact that, well, you mentioned that an awful lot of young people, their first sort of experience of the world of work is in the sort of face-to-face service industry, whereas working in restaurants or bars or whatever, or in retail, and those are the areas that potentially, you know, we all know from our going down our own high streets the sort of tremendous impact that's had on with places being closed. And obviously it will take time for the economy to start to recover, and people to start sort of going back to these places, and again for the employers themselves to start to recover themselves and to have the confidence to start advertising for staff and whatever. But I'm reassured by things you've said, and as I say, I'm hoping, because obviously I think for a lot of us this may be our last corporate parenting meeting because of the election and whatever, and we're not quite sure where we're going to be after May. But certainly for me, as somebody who did have an adopted child, and saw them sort of develop from the age of 7 through to he's currently 24. Realise that, you know, you do realise some of the big challenges these young people face, and also the carers as well. So I'm certainly be taking an interest for however long I am a counsellor. I'm certainly be taking an interest in looking after children. So thanks very much indeed, Janice, for your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittingham, and thank you again for all your support as well.
Thank you, Janice. Right, Tracy, are there any more members wishing to speak, please?
Chairman, we have no further speakers.
Okay, thank you for that, Tracy. Well, we've reviewed and commented on the performance information contained in the report. I'm now going to propose that the panel receives the report. Of course, we've reviewed the performance. It says here that I may well wish to highlight points raised during the debate for passing on to the Executive Councillor. So, Tracy, if we could pass on the comments made by Councillor Whittington and agreed with Janice, that employment, education, training is certainly an area where we are putting more resource in. And can we highlight that, please, for the Executive Councillor? So I propose that we receive the report with that added to it, please. And before we move on, does anyone dissent from that, please? If so, please indicate in the chat. I will pause for a moment.
None indicated, Chairman, and I've made a note about the comment from regarding the extra funding for training, the 8.
Thank you very much for that, Tracy. Well, there's no need for a formal vote. There's no one commented, dissented or whatever. So thank you. That is agreed. And we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda. Item 7 to the long-term mental health of children in care in England, a research project. This item provides the panel with an overview of the long-term mental health of children in care in England, research project to date and planned future phases. This report will be presented by Janice Spencer, Assistant Director for Children's Safeguarding. And once again, if you would like to comment on this item, please type speak into the meeting chat and we'll take questions at the end of the report. Janice, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brailsford. Yes, when we were first approached about this research, it was during the pandemic, and I actually thought, this would be a really, really good project to be part of. That was the starting point. You know, I'm really interested in the long-term mental health of our children in care, and also I was really interested in wondering and understanding whether the pandemic had affected them differently and what sort of services and support we need to provide for them as we move out of lockdown. I'm very disappointed to say that when we did conduct the research, that the questionnaire that they provided was rather lengthy and possibly explains the reasons why we had such low take-up. The cohort of young people that could participate in this was 117 of our children in care, and only 25 children and young people completed the survey. So I'm afraid that it hasn't been as successful as I would have wished. I doubt very much that it's going to lend itself to any learning for us going forward, although I am still awaiting their feedback, and pretty much have requested that we reinforce what we call the strengths and difficulties questionnaire that we do with our young people who are in care, so that we can start to use that as the tool for looking at their emotional and long-term mental health needs. So I'm afraid there's very little I can say other than I'm disappointed that it didn't deliver the results that I would have hoped. And I'm sure as a panel, it's very easy for you to see why. And had I known that that was the length of the questionnaire, I have to be honest, I wouldn't have participated.
Thank you, Janice, for that very frank and honest opinion. And yes, I think we've had a discussion prior, and I think we agree on that. Now, I've got, I think Councillor Whittington was first. Is that correct, Tracy?
It is, yes. Councillor Whittington and then Councillor Folkes.
Thank you. I couldn't, Mark, I couldn't miss you out again, so I'm rather pleased that I caught you there. Over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think I kind of share, and thanks, Janice, for being so frank and honest. I think I kind of share your, after sort of looking through it, it's very unwieldy, isn't it? You know, because I agree. I think this is a really vital area because we know now there's been loads of research, and I've read some of it when I was going through the adoption process. You know, the impact of excuse me, the impact that the experiences that I looked after children experience, you know, in their early stages of life. You know, they may be subject to physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, all kinds of things. And obviously, they're then potentially taken away from their birth parents and their foster parents, and then maybe adoptive parents or whatever, or perhaps, you know, unfortunately, on occasion being in residential care. And I just think it's a tremendously traumatic experience for these young people, and it's bound to have an impact on their mental health, and also on their mental health development, if that makes sense. That sort of move from being a child through adolescence into adulthood. So I think it's a really important area that you know, for academic research to take place in, you know, and for lessons learned to come back to help, you know, local authorities to sort of, and also the NHS to develop their services and around that. So I think I share your concerns around. So it's a real shame. I'm just wondering if part of it could be some feedback to them at Bristol to say, look, this is a really worthy thing you're doing, but actually, we need to make it a bit more snappier for people, so they can engage with it a bit better. And then maybe instead of getting 25 responses out of a possible, was it 111? Was it 17?
Yes.
You might actually, instead of having just over a 20% return rate, you might get a 50% return rate. And obviously, the more completed forms you get back, the better base for your research you've actually got. But obviously, the final question it really is, and I suppose I had a bit of a agreement with you, is did anything come out? Did any of the questions in the survey make you think that maybe we should be asking similar questions in the work that we do? So maybe we might be able to get something out of it. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Janice.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Whittingham. And yes, Councillor Brailsford and Councillor Bradwell, we do what we call our Tell Us survey. And we had a very challenging conversation, didn't we? And, I think quite rightly, Councillor Brailsford and Councillor Bradwell pointed out that actually our questions weren't much better. They were a lot shorter, but they weren't much better than perhaps some of the University of Bristol's. So we have given an undertaking to go away and totally review our Tell Us survey, and we will be co-producing that with young people. So hopefully, going forward, we will get it right, and then we will get the answers that we need that can inform our practice and provide the right support to children at the right time. So yes, and I would say, although perhaps we didn't get it right with Bristol on this occasion, Bristol's a very, very well recognised and well-renowned university. So it's just a shame that on this occasion we didn't get it right.
Thanks, Janice. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. Is it Councillor Fuchs next, please?
It is, Chairman.
Okay, Rob, over to you.
I'll just keep it really short because Mark raised all the questions. I just want to say I agree with Janice. It's disappointing. This, when I saw 25, I thought, well, that's hardly significant. But it's good that the new Tell Us is going to be revamped. So just well done and keep it up. Thanks. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rob. Anyone else, Tracy?
No further speakers, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, well, just before we move on, just to add a little bit to that, yes, I think the Tell Us survey that we're going to do will be an improvement on the item we've got in front of it. In fact, I'm sure it will. I did actually check some time ago, because this item was deferred from a previous meeting, and the young people who were asked to fill in that survey, and I'm surprised 25 of them actually did, there was actually over 360 different questions when you look at it, and I think most of us would probably find that challenging, never mind a young person. So yes, I think lessons have been learned, and we will move on, and thank you for that, and thank you, Janice, for the report. Right, so we've commented on that, and I think we all seem to be in agreement anyway. So I'm going to propose that the panel receives the report and notes the research project being undertaken by the University of Bristol. Tracy, if we can add the relevant points that we've added to that, our views going forward. So we don't need to take a formal vote on that. So does anyone dissent? And if so, could they please indicate in the chat function now, please?
None indicated, Chairman.
Thank you for that, Tracy. So thank you, and that is agreed. Janice, thank you very much. Are you staying in the meeting?
I am staying in the meeting, yes. Thank you, Councillor.
Right, okay.
You never know what John Harris might say if I'm not here.
Well, I would pass on anything on anyway, Janice, as you're only too well aware. So the next item on the agenda is item 8, the Fostering Quarterly Performance Report for Quarter 3. This report provides an overview of activity within the fostering service over Quarter 3. This report will be presented by John Harris, Head of Regulated Services Fostering. If you'd like to comment on this item, please type speak in the meeting chat. And John, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
I'm not going to ask you how many meetings you've done before, but congratulations on 35 years service. And yes, you will be sadly missed by the authority. So over to you.
Yeah, good. Well, firstly, can I just check you can hear me? Because
Yes.
obviously my IT system wants to get rid of me a little bit prematurely, and is currently running an update which is going to take 50 minutes. So this is purely communicated through my work phone, which I'm not very good at doing, and I don't have sight of the report in front of me. So apart from that, everything's perfect. But I did hear the conversation. I didn't chip in earlier because I wasn't sure whether you'd hear me or not. And I certainly can't find the hand facility on this handset. But I did hear what Janice was saying about some of the placement stability issues. So the report is in the usual format. And in some ways, because it's quarterly, nothing significantly changes. I think the good news from my point of view this year is that fostering recruitment is up compared with where we were last year. I think placement stability we've talked a little bit about. I think one of the challenges for the authority going forward will be, I think, stability has also been achieved because some of the young people who we potentially tried to match when they enter care, we unsuccessfully and moved from placement to placement. We've actually had to move them to an out-of-county placement. So I think it's probably distorts a little bit in that we've seen a growth in the number of children placed out of county, which clearly we would want to reverse. So I think that's another issue that sort of has impacted positively in our placement stability. But there is absolutely no doubt that the foster carer body of 290 carers, even those with their own health concerns, have really stepped up to the plate and cared in an incredibly intensive way for our young people. I think the authority has been supportive of carers, and the feedback we get from our carers is that they have felt more valued within this process. I think the additional funding we've made available to carers has been very well received. And I think our emphasis, and without labouring the caring to learn sort of agenda, which we talk about regularly, that foster carer community, which I've probably been involved in, well, I have been involved in fostering for 30 years in this authority. We've always tried to grow it. We've tried to make it a community. I think I'm leaving it at a point when it feels as though that's what it's become, really. And I hope if the decisions are made about the future of caring to learn, that we'll see that go from strength to strength. So essentially, the report is as it is. I think what we do, and I think a few panels ago, somebody raised the issue of conversion rates of interest into actually recruited carers. What we're doing as one of the work streams is looking at that issue. We had a meeting with independent agencies, which again is something we've not done before, a couple of weeks ago. And I think we were 17 different bodies attended those meetings. And that probably shows the context which recruitment is up against within its local community within the confines of Lincolnshire. I think it also sort of heralds perhaps a different working relationship with the independent sector, which I think will hopefully be to the benefit of young people and their outcomes. So things are changing. We've got work streams to do with, can we support foster carers better? Can we bring a psychological dimension to the support we offer to children in placement? Do we need to look at specialist schemes again, which many, many moons ago I came and did a remand scheme within the county? Are there things that we need to do a bit differently? The heartening bit for me, or maybe the depressing bit, is that recruitment retention have always been the fundamentals of a fostering service. I think Lincolnshire has done better than far many. I think there are things happening now which suggest to me that we can carry that on. But what we've learned, and I think what everybody in the council has learned since I've been here certainly, is you can't take the foster carers for granted. And I'm hoping that the approach we have now values more what they do and listens more to what they have to tell us. So I think that's all I can say. Without the report in front of me, I'm pretty well versed in writing the same old stuff, really, but hopefully it has made sense over the years. I am grateful for your good wishes. It's going to be a very strange sort of time not coming to these meetings or not coming back into the workplace. I do intend doing a couple of days a week work, so I'm not totally looking after my grandson. In fact, I think he'd run me ragged, bless him. But I think it's a good time to go. And I think working for Lincolnshire has given me professionally and personally all I would ever have wanted, really. That's all I've got to say.
John, thank you very much for that. And yes, I'm sure I'll pass on all the best wishes of the panel. Yeah, your reports have been very succinct and to the point, and very straightforward and easy to understand. And but before you go, though, I'm sure we're going to have a few questions for you. So hopefully you can stay with us for a little bit longer, John. Yeah. And Tracy, do we have any members wishing to speak, please?
So far, we have Councillor Folkes, Chairman.
Okay, Rob, over to you.
Thank you, David. Well, thanks, John. Sorry to see you go. You've been excellent in your role, and I think Lincolnshire were very lucky to have you. So all the best for the future. I'm just commenting on the Fab Awards. The Fab Awards, which we've been to, are fantastic, a great way of engaging people, boosting the role of foster carers. So I just want to say that once this lockdown's over and we can get the Fab Awards up and running again, then that'll be a great help. That's all.
I don't think there's no doubt about that, Councillor Folkes. I think we did an online version of Foster Carer Awards at the end of last year, and I think that went better than anybody could have expected. If I were coordinating it online, it probably wouldn't have been very successful. But if you get people who know what they're doing with the technology, I think the message from the foster carers was that it valued them and it was something they felt comfortable with. But again, having something where we can champion what young people do and what they achieve, I think has been a joy for most of us over the years. And I think the sooner we can return to something similar, the better for everybody, especially for them, I think.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, John, for that. Yes, you reminded me that I got IT problems on that. And it was most unfortunate, but for me personally, but I was delighted that it went so well. Tracy, I think we have another speaker. Is it Councillor Whittington?
It is, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Whittington.
Okay, Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, John, for this report. I've got no questions on the report, John, because it as normal, it's written in your usual manner, which is very informative. And I think I just want to sort of echo the comments that have already been made, and thank you very, very much for all of the hard work over the years you've been with the council. And I think it's testament that you leave the fostering service in a really great place. So I just wish you all the best for your retirement and best wishes going forward. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and John, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
I do appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Mark. John, that's praise indeed coming from Councillor Whittington, because he's been through the system. So, take that very much as it's said. Right, we have one of the speakers, Councillor Higgs, I believe.
Yes, Councillor Higgs, Chairman.
All I'd like to do is wish John all the very best for the future. And as far as this panel goes, we've really appreciated his input over the years. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The good news, I think the good news for the panel is that Deborah Crawford is a very safe pair of hands, has got some more energy that perhaps I've been lacking. So I think that hopefully that will take the service forward further. So you're in good hands, I think is what I'd say.
Thank you for that, John. Any more speakers, Tracy?
No further speakers, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Well, John, I think all the years I've been on the corporate panel, corporate pension panel, you've been there, and I have to say that I think progress has been made. In fact, I'm certain that it has, and we look to the future, and obviously wish you all the best, John, in whatever you choose to do. And the panel will look forward to working with Deborah in a most positive way. So thank you very much for that. And at least it is possibly a good time if you're thinking of stepping aside, and it's probably a good time for Deborah to come in as well. So, John, I'm sure at some point we may well bump into you. I don't know. You may even get invited to the Fab Awards. But that's not a decision I can take. So wish you all the best anyway.
Thank you, Andy, as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Right. Well, are there any more speakers, Tracy?
No more speakers, Chairman.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that the panel will accept that as an accurate overview of the fostering service. So I propose that the panel receive the report and accept it as such. And we don't need to go to a formal vote. And does anyone dissent from receiving the report? Please indicate, please.
None indicated, Chairman.
Okay, so I say no need for a formal vote. So thank you. That is agreed. Now we go on to item 9, corporate parenting panel work programme. This item provides an opportunity for the panel to consider and comment on the content of its work programme for the coming year to ensure the scrutiny activity is focused where it can be of greatest benefit. This item will be presented by Tracy Johnson, Senior Scrutiny Officer. If you would like to comment on this item, please type speak into the meeting chat and we'll take questions at the end of the report. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Chairman. As been mentioned, this is the last meeting before the elections in May. We're currently looking to a date for an additional meeting in June. This will be for induction purposes for the new panel members. And then the next sort of business as usual meeting, if you like, will be on the 22nd of July. And that currently has the 7 items listed on the work programme. But that's it. Thank you, Chairman. No changes to report.
Thank you, Tracy. Any comments from members, please?
None indicated so far, Chairman. Oh, Councillor Whittington.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, no comments on the work programme at all, but I know this is going to be your last meeting as corporate parenting chairman, and I think that I just want to say thank you to all the hard work you've put in with corporate parenting over the years, and I think it's testament to your leadership as chairman of the corporate parenting panel at LTC is as positive and proactive and forward-thinking as it is. So many thanks, David, for all your work over the years, and best wishes for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that. I see we've got Councillor Fuchs. Is that wanting to speak or not?
Yeah, Councillor Fuchs.
I just want to say the same. Well done, David. You've done a marvellous job over the years. I fully concur with what Mark said. So the corporate parenting panel has been left in very good hands for the future. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Rob. Yeah, appreciate that very much. Yes, Tracy, anyone else?
Yeah, Chairman, we've got Janice who would like to speak and Councillor Higgs.
Okay, who's first?
I think Janice had her hand up beforehand, but I don't know if you want to bring in Councillor Higgs first.
I'll go with Janice first.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would really just like to echo what people are saying. As officers, we have absolutely benefited from your leadership and guidance. You have challenged us, you've stretched us, you've supported us, but you've always done it with the intention of making a difference for children and young people and improving their outcomes. So, you know, it has been a pleasure working with you, and, you know, as everybody does, we wish you well in the future. So thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brailsford.
Thank you for that, Janice. Okay, Andrew.
I'm going to be incredibly boring. I'd like to wish you all the very best, David, and just totally agree with the comments that have already been made. So well done.
Thank you, Andrew. I don't know how to follow that up, but I'll have a go at it. One of the things that impresses me about the team, first of all, it's where would we be without the parents, the foster carers? I think John mentioned this. They've been incredible, and every time I meet them, I'm actually in awe of them for what they do. They take on some quite interesting challenges at times, and they never cease to amaze me. And I've been doing this now for quite a number of years. They never cease to amaze me that the enthusiasm they have for what they're actually doing. And without them, I don't think Lincolnshire County Council Children's Services, a fostering service, would be where it is today without them. So I'd like to first of all congratulate them. During the time I've been involved in the committee, we've made a few changes. And one of the things that I think's made a great difference is the virtual school and the Caring to Learn programme. I think that's been tremendous as well. I think the progress that we've made with our partners, with Bernardo's, with the health service. I understand now that the criminal justice service will be closer to corporate parenting in the future. And I think all the officers that have presented reports have been outstanding. And I think that's something that's been recognised by Ofsted, because I think in the time that we had an interim director of children's services, I don't wish to embarrass you, Janice, but I think you was at the helm when we received the outstanding from Ofsted for children's services. And I think part of that goes down to the work that we do, in this sector. So it has been outstanding. Not only that, the support I've had from the Democratic Services team also has been exemplary. And so it's a credit to everyone, actually. And I'm sure I've missed someone out, but fellow councillors, you've been a pleasure to work with. The only comment that I would make, and I don't wish to sort of be negative about this, I do wish that more of my colleagues on the county council got involved in children's services. We get inundated, as you probably know, by potholes in the roads. And in actual fact, I know that's important to everyone. We all go out and we all drive the car, but very little is known on the excellent work that Lincolnshire County Council does. So to everyone, it's been a pleasure actually to be the chairman of this panel. And I don't want to get too emotional, but what will I miss the most? I think actually it's the children. It is the children, because we will all move on, but I've seen the progress that some of these children have made and some of the challenges that they've had to go through. So Janice says, yes, I challenge you. Yes, I'll sometimes disagree with you, but it's because it's the outcome that's important for our young people. So thank you very much for that. And I think that's virtually the end of the meeting. So wish you all the best and good luck for the future. Thank you.